Ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to please put your hands together as I introduce you all to the moderator of this session. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Ms. Ashwini Mavankurve, Head ESG and Sustainability Services, STS India. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause, please. Followed by our panelists, Mr. Pratyush Panda, Head ESG LTI Mindtree, Mr. Ram Vaidyanathan, Head Environmental Sustainability Godrej Group, Mr. Ajay Panu, Head ESH Thermo Fisher Scientific, Mr. Prashant Mehta, Head ESG Midcat Advisory, Mr. Devesh Khule, Head ESH Everest Industries. Well, with our panel's permission and our moderator's permission, I'm just going to take another 30 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, such eminent personalities right here on the stage, and it is criminal if we do not cheer them. Come on. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay, so a very good afternoon to all of you. I'm sure sitting through another panel discussion or another round of people speaking may seem a lot. But given the circumstances that we are in, I'm sure this conversation will, if anything, just wake you up from your very deep sleep in terms of climate action. I believe the panelists and myself, we've already been introduced, so that's one thing that's taken off my plate. Very well done. But before we get into the conversation and before we talk about the various questions that I've put together, I think it's very important to set the context. Again, a lot of previous panels have made my job easier, but just to bring attention to the conversation we are having today, I'm going to state some things which I believe in the first panel were also covered. In case some of you may have not been able to attend that, let me reiterate. Last week, the United Nations General Secretary warned, I was going to say it's an announcement, but really it's a warning, and to quote him directly as he said it, is that we are moving out of the era of global warming. In fact, it was the era of global warming is over, and we are now entering the era of global boiling. Yeah? While there has been a lot of debate in terms of the correctness of the terms used, which is boiling, there is common consensus in the scientific community that any further delay in action to limit the Earth's temperature increase to well below 1.5 degrees Celsius is going to have devastating impacts. And I'm sure a lot of you may have also come across a lot of research and publications by the IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. The World Economic Forum continues to consistently cite climate action failure as one of the top 10 risks facing the world. And if research and publications is not something that you're into, I'm sure the recent news on forest fires, heat waves, and very, very recently something that's very close to our heart, the growth or the increase in tomato prices. So climate experts have actually linked that as well to climate change. Yeah, and while we may be talking about some really big stuff, something that's so fundamental to us, food security, is also impacted by climate change. Now, all of these are challenges, right? But we've done a lot, different countries have done a lot. India also has committed to a lot of climate-related action targets, whether it's net zero, whether it's transitioning to a lower carbon economy, and so much more. But this entire conversation really is incomplete without the participation and very active involvement of a very important stakeholder. And we have the representatives of that group here, which is Indian corporates, also called fondly as India Inc. So without further ado, I'm going to get into my very first question. And there's a lot of talk about India Inc. committing to 2030 as possibly the year by when we'll maybe reach net zero. So maybe Pratyush and Devesh, you can start Devesh and Pratyush can add in. Where are we really? So what is the status? Where are we really as India Inc. on this journey?
So very good afternoon. So I will say India is changing. The thought process is being changed. So thought process is being changed. That's why we all are here to talk about the net zero. So that is the first change, and earlier we never talked about this thing. So hats off to all of you. Big round of applause for all of you guys. Those are doing participating this event, giving your valuable time and all these things. So that is one of the change. So hats off for all of you guys. Those are working on this area from different diversified fields, diversified industry. That is one of the changes visible here. I think is one of the things. If you see the Mr. Narendra Modi in COP26, he is committed net zero by 2070, and after that, all our Indian leaders, companies started, Mahindra, Adani, and other company has a list of the Vedanta, JSW also, Mahindra and Mahindra also. They stated by 2035, Reliance stated 2030 also. And every company started to talk about this. They are everyone taking the lead. And one principal secretary also, from every individual level, he also stated that, I will make the Madhya Pradesh Sanchi first world city net zero. That is one of the change. And we have the city like, Sanchi, we talk about the Mumbai. Do you know Mumbai when they committed net zero? Anyone? No idea? Okay, they talk about the 2050. So everyone is talking, taking the lead. This is my pride for the net zero. That is one of the changes going on. So similarly, it is going the top from the bottom and up to the several departments. Now up to the, going up to the, previous speaker also said, the new generations also changing before buying. So tomorrow everyone say, I am a net zero person and like this. So that is one of the changes, a cultural change. It's a thought process change. The last speaker also said it's a change management. And from Government of India perspective, if you see the our finance minister, they said 35 or 23,000 crores they are going to invest on the green energies and all these things. And Niti Aayog and Prime Minister has already committed 2030, 50% from the renewable energy, 5 gigawatt from the non-fossil fuels, and reduction of the emission by 1 billion tons. So everything change is going on. I strongly believe if our leadership from the nation, they have strong commitment, and I'm not coming from the BJP and other thing, but the commitment from the top is there, and even the carbon trading also and all these things, they also started. The PwC, they have given the tender and all these things. Lots of changes is going on, and now companies also worried and measuring and all these things. So scope 3, now it is one of the challenge. After few years, it will be resolved by GST pattern, EPR is going on. Similarly, carbon trading, scope 3, supply chain is also one of the unfold area. Now it is being completely going to take care. So I strongly believe that India is going to be in the right directions, and cultural change is going on. Such type of debates is also started at every forum, and people are started to give the KPIs also. Now if you see, there is from the, I interacted during this session, from the legal, HR, CSR, it's not from the only EHS department they are talking. Few of the company secretary, my friend is there, Anish also. So many people are involved towards that. That is a good collaboration is there. So it's a change is already on the way, and nobody can stop India. That's I will say.
Thank you, Devesh. Anything that you would like to add, Pratyush?
So I have a different view altogether. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
So we are far behind with respect to net zero. Forget about doing it, at least to get it understood properly, fundamentally being correct, and even putting up the first step. Go to Science Based Target Initiative website and see how many Indian INC has submitted their target. Forget about being approved, being submitted, number one. And when entire world talks about we net zero by 2040, we, India as a country, we talk 2070, means we consciously probably trying to delay it so that we still emit. Having said that, even it's to all of us in individual capacity also, the very, sustainability as a concept was taking up in India pretty well before CSR Act came in 2014 April. The moment CSR Act came, it got derailed. Nobody spoke about it till COVID came to our door. Post-COVID, probably we have started talking about again sustainability in ESG in a relatively bigger way. Probably that's a good thing we all have welcome. Only thing is has to be sustained. It's not about Indian INC that need to take this target by 2030. Ideally, half of our emissions, as we saw in Martin's presentation, half our company's emissions could have been mitigated by 2030. India was ready by 2010, but suddenly drill took place, and again we are now back to track. Forget about 2030, at least by 2035 also, if we are able to do half of our emissions reductions, something could be achieved. Who have thought of cyclone in Arabian Sea, in Bombay? Last 3 years, we have seen back to back. Nobody has. At the same time, central India is having deficit of rain. In one night, in Mumbai, it is 265 mm on last Friday. And where in central India, it's still 35% deficit of the normal rain. That's what we're getting in our own country. And we all need to wake up. It's for everybody's responsibilities to get it done. How many of you know what is your daily carbon footprint, by the way? Raise your hand. Average? Average, not you, Ram. So, in US, average tons of CO2 emission per capita is almost 16. In India, we say this is 5 to 8. And if it is conference like this, we are at par US. So today, you take a oath, I'm emitting 15 to 16 ton of CO2. How can I mitigate? Start thinking in this way. Forget about your company or department. If you start thinking in that way, probably some solution will come. Otherwise, we'll all keep talking and we'll keep doing greenwashing without naming or shaming it as greenwashing. Back to you.
I completely agree, and I think I want to pick up from that one point which you mentioned, that we're all waiting for other people to take action. And that was also the essence of the warning issued, which said that we cannot really wait for the other person or the other country or another corporate to set that example. We will have to take that initiative to really be able to limit the temperature increase to what it has to really be. So with that, I understand there are a lot of, opportunities as well. And what we've seen recently in the last few years is this has given an opportunity for organizations to develop new strategies and also innovate, right? And there are potential benefits of it to all stakeholders, including the organization. So if you could just point out a few strategies and innovations that businesses are taking, especially also bring in examples from your organization where you've done something that has helped you accelerate on your journey, that would be great. So Ram and Pratyush, Ram, you can start, and sure. Pratyush, you can get this.
I think more than innovation, I would say yes, because technology, we often always think of technology as the barrier or the limiting force which is stopping us from achieving our ambitions. But really, it's a mindset. I think the biggest change has been in mindsets. It's been about, I think, I still can't believe we're still talking about ESG as a cost. The earlier panel talking about, because that idea is at least 10 years old. Because it's any global index you take, the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, the Morgan Stanley Index, there is a clear indication that companies which are doing well on sustainability do well financially. Right. So that entire idea of ESG being a cost, I don't even think it should be mentioned. It should be resigned to the dark ages. So I think the mindset shift and really making it front and center of your operations and your strategy, that's been the biggest driver. We've been lucky in many ways. I'll be very honest with you, because we'll be at about 70% renewable energy as a group by 2026. And I'd like to say it's because we were very forward thinking but honestly we were lucky because a lot of our energy requirements were thermal. And India has a huge quantum of agricultural waste available to use as biomass. We were able to transition to that very successfully and really capitalize on that. But yes, that required a lot of, like I said, mindset shift. It's not like the technology wasn't there. It's not like the solution wasn't there. It's not like the cost benefit wasn't there. It just requires a concerted shift of mindset and really requires somebody to say, I am willing to leave 1% on the table today, but I know that 1% is going to yield me 10% 10 years from now. And that's tangible. I'm not talking about intangible stuff like reputation. I'm not talking about actual tangible dollars on the table. So I think that was the biggest, I would say, driver. But what is really interesting is that I think the windows of target setting are getting smaller and smaller. We started off with a 10-year vision. Now we have 5-year visions. Now this 5-year vision gets reviewed every 2 years because the pace at which technology and regulation is evolving. So I think there is no there is no doubt in my mind that a lot of things which we see as problems today, in 3 years from now, you would have solved it from a technology perspective. Will we solve it from a mindset perspective? I'm not so sure. I think, I really think we should not get caught up in the idea that, oh, it's too expensive to do, or the technology isn't there, so I'm not going to do anything. The mindset shift can get you 80% of the way. It's the only remaining 20% where you need to get focused, and I'll delve a bit deeper on that when we get further into this discussion. But yeah, that's my main point I'd like to drive on this.
Yeah, before I go to Pratyush, I think this also links to a session previously where there was a statement made that a lot of it is fear-based. Yeah, ESG is fear-based. A lot of approaches today, I mean, that's changing, but a lot of approach in terms of ESG overall is fear-based, just to avoid risks, to mitigate any potential risks. That's where ESG is really looked at from, but that shouldn't really be the case. So yeah, if you can also add in a few.
It is both ways. One is a fear factor in there to sustain your company, which is still a good way to do. The best way is to, can you make your own company ahead of the curve? So, and how do you know that? When people like Martin presents, when you are well versed with the global trend going on, we know it's going to come to us also. Like COVID started in China, then Europe, US, it came a month later to India also. So that gave us time to prepare ourselves properly. And when it came second round, again we are more prepared with vaccination, all those. Same thing applies to these things. So they're bound to come on our head for sure. And how do you take opportunity out of this? Can we prepare, like at my end, it was like L&T Infotech, Mindtree, both part of the L&T group, got merged. A big opportunity at our end. By this time when I'm talking to you, with all due respect regard to everyone, we made our ESG targets monthly basis, what is our KPIs to be achieved. We'll do who is working on scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. Within scope 3, how many of you know how many categories are there on scope 3 as per SBTi? 15, well said, at least one voice. There are 15 categories how we can reduce your carbon footprint on scope 3, and none of them are in your control. It's all supply chain related.
Right.
And still there are people fixed in that. Second, what we did in our, as an opportunity, made as a ESG scorecard, as a scorecard inbuilt, and into the KPIs, all anybody who just CSCO in the company. It might be chief technology officer, but the 5% KPI for ESG scorecard. प्रत्युष पहले बोल दे क्या करना है, मेरा कटना नहीं चाहिए PL20 में 5%. So it's, how do you make it as an opportunity within your company to get it done? And if taken current year, we'll be reducing 10% each on scope 1, 2, 3. Post merger, that's a new company. So anything that taking a shape in your company, ESG has to inbuild. It has to be cross-cutting across all your value chain and all department. If you think that it in isolation, it is a cost, then it's not. It's other way around. I'll give you a small example. You while our employer, have you heard of a waste heat recovery system? Those who work in steel, aluminum, cement. Those days in 2010, it was costing hardly 150 crores. If you put it there, we calculated that buyback will be roughly 3 years. The buyback was 9 months. And imagine after 9 months, how many tons and tons of coals you save. Not only that, the cost of that to your bottom line.
Right.
Waste, supply chain, and then, there is a direct saving of roughly 81 rupees per ton of cement produced just by putting 150 crores waste heat recovery system in a cement plant. And then management said, wow, Virveka, do it in 3 years' time across all plant. So, ESG never give you taxing. It always gives you a feel-good factor at the bottom line. You have to package it and put it in front of your board in a way it is palatable and they can easily take it into their mind.
That's some great perspective. And I think whenever we start on something new, right, and especially with climate action, given the very small window we have to really take action, there are always teething issues, right? So there are challenges, but there are also opportunities. So maybe Devesh, Ajay and Prashant, you can shed some light on the challenges and opportunities that are faced by Indian corporates on their journey to net zero. So what are the common challenges, common opportunities? Maybe Devesh, you can start, and Ajay can then add in,
Sure.
Prashant can add in after that.
Sure. So if you see it's a new thing, it's a change thing is there. And change always comes from the, oppositions, because you already in certain, framework, and you are changing from a certain framework to this, that is the Newton's first law, and the inertia moment. So that is one is there, and the right now the mindset is this, is the data collections, give it to someone department, data collect it and put it, publish the BSR report. This is happening, the previous speakers also he told, all the reports are the similar language and all the data is like this. So there is you cannot find out a new initiatives and other thing. It shows the mindset, the holistic mindset of these things. That is the one thing is this, and probably once the such type of seminar with new success stories are coming into it, that will influence the boards. So once it will influence the boards, I feel in a couple of years it will change the mode. Right now it is a legitimate requirements, so it's a forcing to drive and other thing, and the ecosystem is also not ready like scope 3. So scope 3, I think government of India is working on that, and our major part of the energy is fossil fuel based in India. So it is going to be changed, replaced very soon by the green hydrogen, renewable batteries. So most of the part is taking care broadly at the country levels, and most of the issues is going to be resolved it. So if you see the challenges, I brought down the 10 challenges in a high level. One is the lack of data, we all knows, and accuracy of the data also, because we need to put some manpowers and data collection. Right now is the manuals. There's a few softwares are coming and additional cost and other thing. That is the one part. Second is the technology constraints also. And third one is the right now the thought process. I said the data submission thought process. In the previous speaker also told data to information, analysis of the data, what we are getting analysis, and how we are going to interpret and how we are going to benefit. That data interpretation analysis is also lacking. And the one global perspective is the population. If you see, we are the highest carbon emitter per capita wise, we are the lowest one, because our population is higher. And there are the few countries like Bhutan and Maine also, Nuri Maine I think, and they are the carbon neutral country. So these are because of the 6-7 lakh population. So population like this is also one of the roadblock barriers also. And awareness, lifestyle. Lifestyle, for that I want to take one example. Earlier lifestyle, I want to give one story. One monk was there, and his disciple came to him, well, Guruji, I changed my dress. Well, okay, what happened to the previous dress? He changed the circular economy. I used for the mopping purpose. What happened to the earlier mopping? I used to tie up the trees and other thing. So these things, the earlier systems is going to come by the circular economy. Right now we are talking about the solar systems and other thing. But tomorrow, after 20 years, we will talk about what we will do happen with the waste. This huge waste is going to come. The holistic aspect, right now we are not looking, because we don't have some alternate solutions at present scenario. And the supply chain, that is one of the various issue. And if you see the board members awareness, now it is going into it. And if you see the balance sheet, right now it's coming into the annual reports and other thing. So once tomorrow it may be come into the balance sheet, into the liability and asset somewhere. Once it will impact into it liability and assets, then probably the whole gamut will change. So opportunities also, the challenges is the reverse, the opportunities also. I think lots of startups are coming. So people are changing. I think India is going to lead definitely into it. So it's a good opportunity for all of us, and people are driving and all this. I'm very optimistic, 100%.
That's wonderful. Ajay, would you like to add something?
So what I would like to put is anything which comes new would face resistance. So whether it is the companies initially, or then it follows back to the people basically. So the resistance to change is always there. When we talk of basically earlier we used to talk of the product stewardship. Very few companies basically followed the process from cradle to basically the crave. But overall, if you see, it is one of the same thing basically we are talking again in a modified version. So my suggestion would be that when we are taking, we should always basically take up the very small things basically which affect each one of us. As Pratyush said, that how much carbon emission are we basically adding as an individual. So we need to look into our spheres, what are those things basically, and then adopt the change. I can share one example basically means in my previous company, I was working with DuPont, and we had around 53,000 employees worldwide. And we also had a business which was called DuPont Safety Sustainable Solutions. So each of these business development guys, when they went outside to sell safety, so they used to say that we have 53,000 safety managers in the company. So each and every individual, each and every employee of the company used to act as a safety manager. In this particular journey, means these challenges which we are talking of, is one, everybody has to understand, whether we start it from the office level and then basically come to the personal level. So it's the same thing basically when we talk of safety. So it is not just that when we are in the company we appear to be safe, and when we are on the road we will flout all the norms. Whether I start using my telephone, whether I speed up or do all sort of nonsense. It is not like that. We all need to take larger ambit of all these things. It is not the individual or a single company or top 10 companies. Everybody has to participate. Then only means apart from scope 1 and scope 2, we would be able to move in scope 3. And those are the challenges which has been very, in a very right manner, basically all those 10 challenges which Devesh has pointed out are the one basically I certainly means support and say yes, we have to work towards them, and then only we can bring that change.
That's great.
Back to you.
So
I'd
I
like
think
to
we've,
add one more point.
Sure.
In my present company, the focus about towards the R&D towards sustainable products. So good amount of budget and focus and one their KPI for that. We want this sustainable product because it's already been realized already in the board level. We will be out of the market. If a product is not sustainable, not carbon water footprints and other thing, we'll be out of the market. And we are using most of the waste also. So because waste is going to be another resource, it's already been understood at the board level. So I think that is one of the opportunities already in place. And the overall ecosystem is going, percolating down, the new generations, now it is coming to the syllabus, many things are there. So ample of opportunities are, and nature is one of the good teacher. Because COVID and other thing, nature knows how to make the carbon balance, no need to worry. We are not the genius people. Nature know how to carbon balance, water footprint and other thing. They know everything, they will manage you. And they will manage, they can shut the plants, they can shut the some activity also. Nature balance itself is. That is the one thing.
Correct. And there are companies these days which basically support you
Yes.
how to take out opportunities from the waste which you generate. So there are basically means I would say the challenges to help you in that particular area also if you are not aware of means what to do.
Correct.
Back to you,
right.
please.
And I think, thank you. So I think we've covered the challenges to a great extent and to some extent even opportunities. Prashant, maybe you can add some more on opportunities that,
challenges
moving on to that.
extensively discussed. So opportunity-wise, we already know that if we are conscious and if we are considering ESG as our mantra in the organization, there are a lot of tangible benefits which come along with it, right from say the market value or the goodwill of the organization. If a comparable competitor's product is at the same price, same quality, today's generation is preferring a solution which is being made by some organization which is more, I would say, aligned towards sustainability. If they are in the market, they get more preferences to the products. Similarly, you get access to maybe slightly cheaper and free resources. Banks, funds, everybody would look at, like they would provide you a preference over any other organization. And last not the least, the organization and the employees, they also consider the company who is committed to such practices. Like within the organization also it creates a good, I would say, the mindset and the sense of belonging that if an organization is going to such an extent, it would do similar things to us as well. So these are broadly, I would say, the opportunities where you can attract more better competent people into the organization. There is a lot of hype, or I would say awareness around it, particularly today's generation. They would sort of prefer something different than a normal organization. So I think these are the opportunities I see in being an ESG, better ESG company, I would say.
Thank you, Prashant. And that reminds me of, I'm sure you must have also come across the research where it was stated that they had conducted a survey where it said that certain percentage, and it was a huge percentage, of Gen Z workers are refusing to work with organizations that do not have ESG practices in place. And that just goes to say that, I mean, I think almost 8 years ago also we had surveys saying that consumers want to have sustainable products, but now we also have the new workforce, the new generation of the workforce also demanding these things. So yeah, that just reminds me of that. And before I move to the next question, I think it's very important that we have an ecosystem. So as Pratyush rightly said, it's not just the India Inc. that holds the entire responsibility for transition, right? You need to have the necessary ecosystem, and policies, government policies can do a great job in providing that enabler. So if you could highlight the role of government policies, and if you could also list down a few of them, for example, the green hydrogen policy, even the recent one on carbon credits, green credits, there have been some great motivators to provide that impetus. So maybe if you can just add something specifically from your sectors also, if something has come up that can do that. So Ram and Pratyush.
Sure.
Yeah.
For better or worse, regulations seem to be the best driver for ESG in this country.
Right.
For all the altruistic efforts and for all the goodwill and the positivity that's around the larger companies, what's really moved the needle is regulation.
Right.
Solar is a great example. It's literally subsidy and the regulations that have created that massive push towards solar we saw. EPR is the best example. Plastics, nobody could solve it till they came with a stick and said, you have to do this. Now, if you see the shift in the laws of the last couple of years, they've understood it, which is why the stringency on not just collection, but in terms of using more recycled plastic in your packaging, or making sure that every single plastic that you use is labeled with the size, eliminating plastics beyond a certain micron level of sizing. So clearly regulations work. So the government has an incredibly huge role to play in India, more so than any other country in the world, because as long as our economy itself has a lot of government levers in it, in terms of fuel prices, in terms of taxes, in terms of subsidies, in terms of sectoral intervention, in terms of PSUs. As long as the government is heavily involved in industry, it will play the biggest role in terms of regulations or in terms of any kind of policy that moves the needle on this. Which is why I think, I think somebody mentioned earlier that, the government has set these ambitious targets. I don't think they're ambitious enough. Because if the government, who's the biggest driver of ESG in this country, is saying that 2070 is when we look to be net zero, that sends a very poor signal, I would say, to industry, saying that we still have plenty of time, when the reality is we don't really have time. So I think it's imperative, which is why I think in my previous point I mentioned that the technology and regulatory landscape in the next 10 years is going to shift rapidly. In the last 2 years, you've seen more environmental legislation than in the last 20 years before that, be it green hydrogen, be it the carbon market, be it policies on storage, be it even extending things like PAC, which is the Perform, Achieve Trade policy of energy efficiency, extending it to industries not traditionally in the manufacturing ambit. Even things like, for example, all of us are discussing the environmental bit of it, but even social legislation in terms of diversity, inclusion, all these have to come in place, and they have to come in place very fast for change to happen. Right. So if there's anybody here from the government, please don't shoot the messenger, but yeah, we're expecting a lot from you guys, and without that, we really will not be able to move the needle here.